from the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 106 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Tonight, I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
Hello.
And we have some very special guests with us tonight. We have Terry and Julia from the Horror Movie Survival Guide podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. So excited.
Yes, on this stormy, earthquakey day that we've been having here in Southern California.
It was a hurricane. It was an earthquake. I'm at the combination hurricane earthquake. Okay.
So yeah, we'll see if we survive this podcast. Who knows? This could be our last will and testament. But first, why don't you tell us about your show?
So our show is Horror Movie Survival Guide. We've been going for over 6 years and have over 300 episodes. And we do interviews. We've talked to some amazing people. We've talked to Patton Oswalt and Damon Leone and Diane Franklin and a bunch of people. But mainly the real show is every week we break down a horror movie details. We love obscure details that no one else notices. And we go all over the map. We're doing a gore round right now. We have Mike Flanagan. We've done lesbian vampires. We go all over the place. And tell you how to survive each movie.
Yeah,
Nice.
and we're very
Awesome.
spoiler heavy. So if there's a movie you really want to see and you don't want it spoiled, don't listen to our show first. But if there's a movie you know you're probably not going to see, or maybe one that you just want to know a little bit more about and want to know all the things. I have friends that are fraidy cats that don't want to watch any horror movies that love listening to our show because then they're like, and then I know what happened and I feel better about it. And it's like, it makes me feel good. Like I'm hanging out with my girlfriends talking about it. I'm like, exactly. That is what we are for.
And Terry and I have been best friends for 20 years. So you're hearing genuine friendship on the show, which I think is a fun bit. for
Julia,
it.
it's been 25 years.
Oh, sorry.
Oof.
That's
We met
awesome.
at the end of the 90s and it's now 2023. So yeah, almost 25 years. Yeah, we're getting there.
That's awesome.
So I saw that you recently covered Bodies, 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 which takes place during a storm of sorts.
Hurricane party.
Yes.
So this could be our Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. But what did you decide is the best way to survive that movie?
Oh gosh. I think you gotta just not take everything, assume everyone is the murderer, because maybe it's not that. Because I don't know if you know this. Not everything is as it seems. What was it?
I remember the how you survived the movie. We decided to do you tell the truth.
Mm,
If you tell the
Wow.
truth, you would
who knew?
survive.
Who knew?
Yeah,
Who
I know,
knew?
right? It's not like telling the truth is important or anything, but
Nah.
Yeah. Oh, those guys.
All right. Well, tonight we're going to be covering John Carpenter's Body Bags, which actually just celebrated its 30th anniversary. It came out August 8th, 1993. So,
Amazing.
Did not time it that way. It's just a happy coincidence. Jody.
Real fast before we
Yes,
start,
sir.
can I just give a shout out to one of our collaborators and another two people. One, our good friend Dr. Natalie and her husband Jeff, and our good friend and Patreon Tommy, both dealing with losses of their pets recently. And just want to throw out to you guys. You guys are in our thoughts, and thank you for being on our show and listening to our show. And you guys had the best dogs, so our thoughts go out to you guys. Sorry, didn't mean to start on a somber note, but
No, we love animals. I get it.
Now let's talk about
Yeah.
a morgue.
but dealing with but you know what, like humans, humans will give you a reason why they should probably die. Like we're not the best species in the world, but dogs are just
We're not
Even
pure love like the doggies
Exactly,
are. Yeah, I get
exactly. There's no such thing as a bad dog. Like Cujo wasn't even a bad dog. He was made bad by us humans. So dogs are awesome, and I always feel like I have two little ladies, and when they go, like I don't know how I'm gonna deal with that one. So I don't know how this. So I just want to just shout out our good friends dealing with some losses.
All right. As always, Jody, you are our plot synopsizer. If that's a word. Synopsis dude.
I need like an official title.
Yeah, we
You know,
need a
that would be
theme.
nice.
You
Yeah.
could, I figure out you can wear like one of those old timey doctor, like with the mirror on the front of
Oh,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you can be Dr. Synopsis.
Oh, okay.
Just
Oh.
an
There's an
Oh,
idea.
that's
It's an idea.
dope.
I mean,
Like-
Yeah.
we already know from our Campfire Tales episode that I like to be theatrical here, even though nobody can see me. So that's nice.
Well, they can see you if they watch a YouTube video.
They
so
can.
and
There
if
is
they
an
don't,
option
they're
at
missing
least.
out on the end.
Just I was supposed to say Dr. Synopsis sounds like a villain from Mega Man.
I mean,
Yeah, that's what's kinda
no,
going
it
for.
definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
watched Across the Spider-Verse this afternoon with the kids, and so yeah, that sounds like Spider-Man villain. That
Mhm.
movie was excellent, by the way. If you've not seen
That
it,
movie
Crap,
rocks.
It's amazing.
Oh, so good.
your
Uh,
your evil villain power would be you give 3-sentence synopsises of movies, but you spoil every important detail.
Spoil
in that
everything,
synopsis.
just the spoilers.
Oh,
Or-
the synopsisizer. Ah.
Or 10 minutes and never actually get to like the first act.
One of the two. All right, well, let's do some synopsizing since we've had all this intro about it. All right, so we open on a morgue with the most entertaining coroner ever, John Carpenter, in full makeup, and he's messing with the bodies, poking around at them. He's looking for the gory ones, and that's kind of our wraparound for this anthology. Is every time he finds an interesting body, he tells us the story of how it got there.
Oh,
And so go
oh,
ahead.
don't forget about the formaldehyde martini, because
Yeah, he's drinking formaldehyde martinis. He's
that was
just
key.
I will say
it's
my brother
fantastic.
in science class in high school dared his friend to eat a clam that was in formaldehyde,
Oof.
and he did it for $1, and he lived. So
Oh, okay.
go shout out to Sparky for that.
Man, that is
I
a
gotta say, man, he got ripped off though, because if you're gonna eat
That's
a
Sparky.
formaldehyde clam, you need more than $1 for it.
there are better ways to make a buck, as they say.
All right, so our first story is called The Gas Station, and this one was directed by John Carpenter. We've got a young college student named Anne who is working at an all-night filling station near Haddonfield, Illinois.
Hey.
John Carpenter throwing in the references right from the get-go. There's a worker who's coming off his shift named Bill, and he says, hey, be careful. There's a serial killer that broke out of the mental hospital. Don't leave the booth without your keys because you'll get locked out. Bill leaves, and so she's hanging out in this little tiny glass booth for a long time by herself. And as she's there, random customers come up. There's a guy named Pete who's she's kind of into, and he leaves his credit card behind. And she tries to chase him, but he drives away. There's Wes Craven looking haggard, but awesome because it's Wes Craven.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was looking like a young man back then, man. He was looking
Yeah.
good.
I liked how sleazy he was.
Oh
We
yeah.
both
Yeah.
are. That's kind of one of our brands. Just FYI, we're into creepy uncles, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna get murdered by Wes Craven. He's so hot and gross.
Yeah, it's a very random, like, wait, is that? Yes, it is.
Oh, it definitely is.
And there's a lot of these in this movie.
Yeah. Then we got a couple that pulls up, and guy wants to use the restroom. Wait, hang on, I'm out of order here. Then we get a cameo by the great George Buck Flowers, who, if you see his name listed in the credits of a movie, you're going to be having a good time. And he also probably is playing a vagrant of some sort because that's just kind of his thing.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I gotta talk about Buck Flowers for a second.
Go for it.
So I went through his IMDb. He's been in a ton of Carpenter movies.
Mhm.
The Fog, Escape from New York. He was in Pumpkinhead, Maniac Cop. He also played the vagrant in Back to the Future, the one on the bench. I went through his IMDb and counted all the roles where it's either vagrant, homeless man, drunk. 15 roles.
Wow. He had his notch.
Yeah,
You know your brand, you sell it. I mean, that's
Exactly.
brilliant. That is a beautiful case of that. He's
The-
perfect at it.
My favorite role that's listed on his IMDb, he actually was in a bunch of softcore porn movies in
Nice.
the early
Sure.
70s. He was in one called Mother Knows Best. His character's name was Boris Clitoris.
Wow.
Have you seen that one, Jason?
Can't say I have.
Not
But-
yet.
Dude, I'm like, I'm looking that up. I'm gonna have to
right
look
now.
that up.
On the Jordy's Plex server.
Yeah. It was either
once again,
2020
Jason.
Hmm?
What do we not talk about on the show?
Jordy's Plex server.
Mm.
Anyway.
We don't talk about Plex servers on
The
this.
first server, the first rule of Plex servers.
All right. So it was either 2022 or 2021. He was my most watched actor on Letterboxd because I've been
Wow.
watching a lot of 80s horror, and he's just in everything. So, but he comes up and he gets the key to the restroom and kind of scares the woman as she's waiting there. And then, like I said, a couple pulls up later and he goes to the restroom and says that this guy's passed out in there and he had to pee over him, and they leave. And so she goes to go check the restroom and see what's going on. When she gets there, there's this elaborate drawing on the stall wall that has first off, real quick, for an all-night rest stop restroom, pretty clean, honestly.
Yeah.
I've been in much worse.
Yeah, I
I'm
thought it was
impressed
I
by-
thought it was gonna be way worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by that mural, to be honest. If I went into a thing and there was that level of detail, I'm like, man, someone
Yeah.
stood here for a long time and did that. I appreciate that. It's not your normal, just like for a good time call.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you're getting details.
It's also not your favorite tag, Julia. Boners forever.
That is the best
So-
tag of all time.
I mean, it's
with the
not like,
Z.
Yeah, and a 4.
it's not as good as the bathroom from Glorious, but it's up there.
No. No.
That's what I expected. That's the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
restroom I expected. But this other than this drawing on the wall of like a demon creature and a bunch of beheaded bodies, like other than that, pretty. Given my options, I'd go to that restroom knowing that painting was there, just because it's clean. You do what you got to do. So she gets all freaked out by that and runs out and finds the dead body of that man sitting in a pickup truck on a lift in one of the garage bays. And so she freaks out, obviously tries to make a phone call for help. And when she picks up the phone, Bill from earlier is inside the convenience store part of things. And we realize that Bill is not Bill, because Bill is Sam Raimi. And we've seen his employee of the month picture. And then his dead body falls out of a locker. This is the crazy man. He has taken over and pretended to be Bill to get to her. Yeah.
So to clarify that, so Sam Raimi's body falls out of a locker
Yes. Sam Raimi
director.
as Bill.
as Bill.
It's Sam Raimi's turn to get bloody for once instead of
Yeah,
just making Bruce
exactly.
Campbell do it. But Robert Carradine, who's such a sweet faced man, like in
Mhm.
his like feral phase right here,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, he does a great job in this. He's very intimidating for a guy who is not very intimidating most of the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by the range of my favorite nerd from Revenge of.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Nerds.
From
Exactly.
Revenge of the Nerds, Tommy Knockers, Escape from LA, Ghost of Mars.
But
Yeah.
So
If
many
you're-
things.
If you're of a certain generation, he's from Revenge of the Nerds. That
Mhm.
was my childhood.
It's just
teenager.
on TV a lot.
It was on Comedy Central just about every day.
Yep.
All right, and so the fake Bill then comes and tries to kill Anne with a machete and with a sledgehammer that he's banging down the window with, and she knocks him out and goes back into the garage area where he follows her, and he's about to get her when Pete, the man who forgot his credit card, suddenly shows up. body
David
slams
Naughton to
him,
the rescue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
knocks him up under the car, and Anne pulls the lever that drops the car down, smashing him with a glorious amount of blood just spurting all around him. And that is the end. Well, no, and then Pete says, "Forgot my credit card." That's the end of our first story. So I'll stop
Yes.
there with my synopsizing. I don't want to give you too much at once.
All right, Mondo, tell us what you thought.
Yeah, so Body Bags, I love this movie so much. And John Carpenter he wrote the role for himself. Like, obviously,
Oh, yeah.
like he knew what he was going to do when he walked into this, and he's just having the best time as a morgue attendant. Still would not, even though I know your friend made $1 eating an oyster out of formaldehyde, still to our listeners out there, don't drink formaldehyde. That can't be good for your insides. All the cameos in this made this super fun. Because every time you turn around, it's like, oh, look, there's that guy, there's that guy, there's that guy. And that makes it for always a good time for these throwback horror movies. And well, actually, it's throwback since it came out in 1990. But I like how creepy this one was too, and how it's kind of played almost like a slasher film at the beginning with the kind of the faux jump scares. And then obviously when the reveal happens, it makes so much sense, because even at the beginning, he kind of tells her, oh yeah, he forgets to give her keys at the very beginning, which is the first thing you would do if you're going to hand off your store to somebody. You hand them keys. He's like, oh yeah, I guess you do need those. I think he's thinking like, I'm just going to kill her anyway, like she doesn't need keys. And But by the way it turned out, I love the last line. Like you said, being I forgot my credit card was just a perfect way to end the episode. And then of course the gore effect with the body gain smash was just beautiful. So 1 for 1 on this anthology, in my opinion.
All right, Terry.
I freaking loved it. It was absolutely delightful. I just really loved the kind of caveat that she was just like, yeah, I could do this job. She was so confident from the beginning. And I loved that power of just like, I'm a college girl. I'm studying psychology. I understand people. But also she got a little lost with how hot, like, David Naughton was when he came up in his little sporty car. And I just adored that little crushy crush moment where she was just like, oh no, rule number 1 was don't lock the keys, out of there. And she gets locked out, and just the suspense of that. It's just really nicely built and really nice tension of just, the push and pull of her dealing with what she thinks is the creeper, and it turns out the nicest guy that she met that night ends up being, the twist of him being the worst person that she met that night, actually. So yeah, wonderful. And also love the gotta give a shout out to the lady trying to pump gas as well. She is the mom from Harry and the Hendersons, you guys.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She is. Yes.
Like everybody in this movie, I was like, oh my gosh. And she's just phenomenal. So I was really happy to see her. And she had no clue how to pump gas. She was that lady. That couple was just delightful of how, much they were unhelpful to poor Anne at the stop.
She was also Jim's mom in American Pie too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
she's a great mom character.
Good TV mom.
Mhm.
Later, but
Yeah.
for this one, she got to have a fun role. I liked it.
So yeah, this was a hit for me. This
Nice.
particular portion of the show. Yeah.
All right, Julia.
When you sent us the list of movies and things to choose from, I chose Body Bags for a very specific reason. So when the Star Wars re-release came out in the 90s, I got a big crush on Mark Hamill. So when I get a crush on someone, my MO is to just watch every single movie they're in and just go down a rabbit hole. So this is how I found this one. And my friend and I used to quote his section a lot to each other, and we were just flummoxed by this movie. But if you get a little Julia secret here, my Twitter bio is the tagline for this movie, which is a shock around the clock scare fest that'll keep you coming back for morgue.
Nice.
I was like, there you go, thumbs up.
I learned that watching this podcast. I was like, Julia, I had no idea that's where you got that from. I knew it was probably some sort of quote, but I did not know what it was from. So thank you guys.
Yes, and
Oh,
I think that this, I
fun.
think it's so fun that we're getting. I like John Carpenter's, I like the makeup. I like him going crazy and really having a good time with it. And I think that this is a good, succinct little segment, because I think sometimes in anthology movies, the segments goes on just a little bit too long. And I
Mhm.
feel like this doesn't do this. I feel like it clips along really nicely and gets to where you want to go without much fat on the bones.
Yeah, this is easily like a good short film. Like could stand alone. It could be. I could watch this for another half an hour, 45 minutes, and make a whole movie out of it.
Because this movie is a
Um,
Showtime movie, right? So it was a TV movie. It's not
Yeah, so
released theatrically.
this was like kind of a pilot for Showtime's trying to. I guess they were trying to do like a Tales from the Crypt, because John Carpenter is definitely cribbing the Crypt Keeper, and there's a lot of that humor and that vibe going on. There's actually quite a few people that did Tales from the Crypt in this series. We'll get to them in a moment. So I think this is Showtime trying to emulate that at the height of the Tales from the Crypt fad. But also, so I'll go. I love this segment. This was really fun. The music, obviously John Carpenter's doing the music. It was really good, tense music, very much The Thing vibes. And I really liked Alex Datcher, who played Anne, the main character. I thought she did a great job. I would love to see her in more things. Her biggest other role was Passenger 57, the Wesley Snipes action movie. And she was on a Star Trek for I don't know exactly how many episodes, but she did a little Star Trek. But I thought she was phenomenal in this. I would love to see more. Again, the Wes Craven cameo is great. There's some great gore effects. It really did had that like tomato bursting effect, which was like
Mhm.
pop. And John Carpenter doesn't often go for like a big gory bit like that. He tries to usually be a little more understated. So I was kind of surprised.
He's got Sam Raimi and Wes Craven on
Mhm.
set, he's
Yeah.
got to go harder than he usually does.
So I'm wondering if having other horror directors is like causing him to like up his game a little bit. Just feeling a little pressure from that. Maybe not, but we can always think.
Well, when you have Greg Nicotero doing your effects, like you want to give him something to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. We'll see some of him in a second. But yeah, I thought this is extremely good opening segments. Jody.
Yeah,
you have any thoughts?
we've talked on anthologies that you really need to start strong and finish strong, and this is a great start. Like, this is a perfect way to get this movie going, because it really establishes the tone. Because there's some comedy, there's some funny moments, there's all those cameos, but it's genuinely like a good short. It's creepy, like like a good episode of Tales from the Crypt. You get the cameos, you get the humor, but in the end, it's got to be a little scary. And so I think that pulls it off really well. I'm with Mondo. Like, I'm going to gush over all these because I really like this movie. It's not going to be one that I like tear apart critically. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy this first segment a lot.
All right. I think we're ready to move on to the next one. Jody.
All right. Our middle segment is our silliest segment, but it's still pretty fun. It's called Hair, and again, directed by John Carpenter. We get a middle-aged businessman named Richard, played by Stacy Keach, who is very self-conscious about his thinning hair. And I just got to say, this felt like upsetting and aimed at me at some points along the way. This man is, I looked it up. Stacy Keach would have been like in his early 50s at this point, and I already had no hair in my mid 30s, and he's like losing his mind in his early 50s about, you know what, I'm just gonna move on. This is not a therapy session. But he's getting very self-conscious.
It's okay, Jody, it's okay.
Yeah, I think
you're still beautiful. Okay,
me and Jody should do a Patreon after this about our hair issues.
Hey, but after seeing the attempts that he made at home to fix his hair problems, this is why I shave my head, because at a certain point there is no fixing it. You just can't. You just have to move on.
You guys both missed the perfect opportunity to draw on fake hair for tonight.
just draw it on tonight. So he's it's causing some difficulty with his girlfriend, because every time she comes over, he looks like a maniac from some hair treatment he's tried to give himself. He like dyes top of his head like an Easter egg.
But you should mention that his girlfriend is Sheena Issa.
That's right.
So beautiful. And she keeps telling him, I love you for who you are. You don't need to change anything. You're perfect. And he's not listening to her. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Now, this is all his own personal insecurity.
And she's like so hot. She's so, I mean, it's Sheena Easton Strutt, pout, put it out. That's what men want from women. I mean, she is everything and so gorgeous. And like, honey, you look great. Stop this madness. And she's like, fine. Instead of putting a rug on your head, go to my hairdresser.
Yeah. So he goes to the hairdresser and he kind of styles it up, and it looks all right. Like, it's not a bad look. But then he sees all of these people with long flowy hair walking by, including Greg Nicotero with his own long flowy hair.
Where's Mick Garris talking about long flowy hair?
Yeah.
His is epic.
And I like how they pan to his dog too. There's a dog with a long
Even his
hair.
dog's flowy hair. So Richard's pretty obsessed at this point. That's when he goes home and dyes his head and ruins whatever had happened at the hairdresser. But then that night, after she's like, we need to take a break, this is really getting out of control, he sees an ad for a man named Dr. Locke. And Dr. Locke, oh gosh, what's the guy's name?
David Warner.
David Warner, yes.
He's amazing.
I love David Warner so much.
Fantastic actor.
Who recently just passed away. It's really a big bummer.
So he goes to this Dr. Locke, and Dr. Locke does this like a little computer thing where he like shows him different hairstyles, and he wants the stallion, which is the long Fabio hair. Do have to mention Dr. Locke has a nurse there. It's freaking Debbie Harry from Blondie and Videodrome and all kinds of other good stuff.
I
ahead.
just found out that it's not her real name, Debbie Harry.
No.
Oh, really?
Angela Trimble. And I was like, oh, stage name. Stage name onto stage name. You're Debbie Harry, you're also Blondie. But she's fantastic. She always gives such good energy.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great.
Fantastic.
She's also in Tales from the Dark Side like a year or two before this. So she's really hitting the horror anthology circuit.
So he gives him this solution. He says, we'll put this stuff on your head. you'll be wrapped in bandages. You'll go back to your own home, take the bandages off, and you'll have hair. And that's exactly what happens as Richard is taking it off. These long, like 2-foot long locks fall out of the bandages, and it's a
Very
ridiculous
Peanut Butter
haircut, but
Solution.
it's-
Anyone
Yes.
remember that movie?
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
traumatizing.
Sorry, Peanut Butter
yeah.
Solution Trauma. Yes, it reminds me of that. I was like, oh no, are they gonna make? I wanted to know what was gonna happen with that hair. I was like, oh no, that has got to be haunted hair now. Oh no.
Yeah.
His reaction and that they really, I think it's just one take, and that this whole like him unraveling and him
Yeah.
realizing. I think it's so sad though. He says, "If I have hair, I have everything. I just want to love myself again."
Yeah.
Oh, that's hitting hard, JC.
And he's swinging his hair back and forth like it's a shampoo commercial. Like it's he is very excited, and so is everybody else. Everyone else around him, it just fawns over this hair. His girlfriend comes back and she's like, "I said it wasn't a big deal, but now that I see your hair, it's got everybody excited." He
But
goes,
nobody asks like, "What the fuck, man?
"Yeah,
You were bald
Yeah.
like 2 days ago. Now you have this. Like, what happened?"
I would just kind of accept it. Like, I'd have questions
would
yeah,
have
definitely."
and concerns.
Well, he starts having concerns because after she leaves, he noticed his hair is like another 6 inches longer than it was earlier. And so he goes to get it cut. And when the hairs fall down on the ground, some of them kind of crawl away like a little inchworm. And that's our first sign that things are not right. And in addition to this, he starts feeling really tired, and he's got this tickle in his throat. He keeps coughing. And so he goes back home and he cancels his date. And he's laying around and he starts coughing again. He looks in a mirror into his throat, and there's like a little hair thing wiggling around in the back of his throat, and it dips back down inside. Then he lays down, and when he wakes up, he's got hair growing out of his cheeks, out of his forehead. He's got all these big, like, open pores everywhere where hair is growing out, and
He's
they're
looking Teen
wiggling and-
Wolfy, like kind of
Yeah, I was
like
gonna
all of a
say,
sudden.
you look like a werewolf transformation if you stopped
Yeah.
it right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the hairs then they're wiggling, and they have little mouths on them. Like he pulls one of them out and it's got little teeth and tries to bite him like little snakes. And he tries to cut one of the hairs. Oh no, this is earlier. They cut it and it screams when the hair is getting cut. And so there's just all this insanity going on. And so he goes back to the doctor, Dr. Locke. And when he gets there, he's like, "What did you do? What happened?" He said, "It's another successful implant." And then he tells the story. They were aliens, and they landed on the planet and found that the only thing they really wanted to eat was human brains. It's the only thing that would sustain them. And they needed a good source. And so they used our vanity against us by selling these hair transplants, which basically implanted his brain and body full of these little hair aliens. And at this point, Richard's kind of shut down, and he sits down in a chair, and it ends with the nurse combing his hair as he, I guess, accepts his upcoming death. Although the coroner does say that he jumped off a building and was hit by a car and was dragged underneath the train before he starts the story. I don't know how we get to that part,
Yeah.
but either way,
I thought that was a different story.
Was he the one in the plastic baggie?
I thought it was him that they led into that story with.
That's what I
could
thought
be
too.
wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but either way,
All
It
right.
might be what was left of him after they ate him. Do you know what I mean? Though, like,
he's got,
who
he's
really
got
knows?
hair aliens.
All right, Julia, why don't you start us off? What do you think?
It's fun to play on insecurities and have that be your downfall, right? I think that I don't know, the alien thing seems a little more than I need from the story, but I'm not mad at it. And I think Stacy Keach everybody gives a great performance, and so it's trim, if you'll excuse the pun. It is quite trim.
Mhm. All right, Terry.
Yeah, no, I was just very excited to see Sheena Easton. Clearly, I love her since my childhood. I think she is freaking wonderful and beautiful. And was pleasantly surprised to see her being wonderful with him. It's a really creepy little vignette. I enjoyed how weird it was. I love alien things, and a little Medusa kind of vibe that was happening here. And I do find it interesting because I was just I think the last few weeks, I don't know, for whatever reason, I've heard people talk about like hair loss or hair transplants or all that kind of stuff like a lot actually in my zeitgeist world. So it's just interesting that that's like, oh, it's just something that's still happening and it's still very pervasive, but also there's different solutions now that are actually like the skin grafting and the things that people are doing. If it makes you feel good, I think, this world is weird. It's horrific at times. And if we survive this storm, do what you got to do to make yourself feel good in these trying times. But also listen to your hot girlfriend sometimes, maybe, and that could save your life. If she already thinks you're perfect and beautiful, maybe listen to that.
All right. Manda.
Yeah, I like this. It's probably my least favorite of the 3 segments. I don't mean it's bad by any means. It's still great. I still really enjoyed it. Stacy Keach is perfect for this because I think if you had someone that he almost looks ridiculous. He kind of looks ridiculous with long hair, which makes it that much better. Because I think if the long hair really fit him, it wouldn't be as entertaining of an episode. Because seeing him walk around like flipping his locks was just so awesome. And as a guy who had long hair for many years, it's such a pain in the ass. I'm just gonna say, like, having long hair is a pain in the ass. I don't miss it. I mean, let's be fair, Jason. You need to buy shampoo. It's pretty awesome. Like I'm pretty like I'm okay with it. Like when I have to shave all this off, I'm okay with it. Like I'm not gonna hang on to it. But this is kind of interesting because like you mentioned, Sheena Easton's over here being like the best girlfriend ever. Like, dude, I love you for who you are. You're gorgeous. Don't stop doing stupid stuff to your hair. Your hair is fine. But once again, like the biggest downfall of us men is ourselves and our own toxic masculinity that society's given us, where we feel like, it has been for years. The bald look only came. It's been in our lifetime that the bald look became okay. As dumb as that sounds. Whereas, like, who gives a shit? Like, we shouldn't be worried about the hair. Mainly the people giving guys shit for their hair are other dudes. So it's basically just he's got this great girlfriend telling him no, it's okay, but he still has to go out and still has to do this. Then he meets his downfall. Much like Julia said, I think the space alien thing was a little bit much for me, which kind of took it down for me at the end. But that's a small nitpick in another good segment.
There's a lot of ingredients in this one that I like. It's very Tales from the Crypt, great performances. I'm a huge David Warner fan. But I just feel like there's something like I think it was just structured in not the best way. Like I feel like they took way too long to build up to it, and then they have that twist, and then it just kind of ends. Where I was like hoping that like the girlfriend would show up and try to rescue him, and then he'd be like invasion of the body snatchers, like give her over, like something a little bit more after that. It's like, oh, here's what's really happening, and then it's done. So plot wise, I just feel like they need to be rearranged a little bit. But it's a zany concept. Okay, whatever. And in this world, we've heard weirder things, and I kind of like the body horror aspects, a little bit of it. I wish they would have gone a little bit harder into that. But it's like I agree with Mono. It's probably the weakest of the 3. But it definitely has potential. It just would be reworked a little bit more. But again, shout out to Stacy Keach from again Escape from New York, a ton of things, but Escape from New York, American History X, Prison Break, the TV show. And Jody, you added this. I'm not very familiar with Slave of the Cannibal God. Can you?
That's right. Yeah, no, that's one of those Italian cannibal movies directed by Sergio Martino, starring Ursula Andress. I mean, we're talking like prime sleazy trash Italian B-movie stuff. I had to put it in there.
That sounds like a dream. That sounds wonderful. Going to look that up.
Jason only cares if an actor's been on Dawson's Creek. Other than that, he's not okay that much.
Honestly, I don't blame him. Don't be mad. I don't want to wait forever for this moment. No, I think I try to bring up Dawson's Creek anytime I can. I feel that.
Oh no, we've already discussed because that's one of Jason's like comfort shows. We've already discussed a Dads from the Creek spinoff.
Nice. Do it. It's even better if you hate it.
Exactly. David Warner, I just have to give a shout out again. He was in Titanic, Star Trek 6, Tron, In the Mouth of Madness, Scream 2,
Time Bandits,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Waxworks, Ice Cream Man, Necronomicon. He was also in, and this is going to be important in a second, Tales from the Crypt episode The Arrival, which is, again, I think the scariest episode. of Tales from the Crypt, one of my top. I think I had it in my top 5. So again, we're cribbing another Tales from the Crypt alum.
And Debbie Harry in a nurse costume, right? Nobody's mad at that.
Hell yeah!
So hot. And can I just see Stacey Keach looks a little like Sean Bean as Boromir in Lord of the Rings. And that's very much Julia knows that I will find a way to make Lord of the Rings in every episode as well. That is my comfort thing. I will watch that all the time. And he's giving me a little bit of that. And I was like, when he's all like Harry, I was like, okay.
For a moment, I thought it was
Get
Tom
it, Stacey Keach. Yeah.
Yeah. For a moment, I thought it was Tom Atkins.
Yeah,
like, I didn't see that
Yeah.
name.
Damn. Okay.
All right, Jody, did you give your thing yet?
Oh,
Best review?
about this one? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's definitely by far the silliest of the 3, and I think because the first one is such a great one, it suffers a little bit just following that. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's silly. You know, I like all the performances. I like all the people in it. The little snakes. You know, for I'm assuming early 90s CGI, that's got to be how they did that, right? Like,
Mhm.
It could have
Yeah.
been stop motion.
I guess yeah.
maybe,
Yeah, I think-
yeah.
They're reminding me of the little Dream Demon Freddy snakes from Freddy's
Yeah.
Dead.
I thought
Yeah,
about
so
Beetle,
I don't know if it
Beetlejuice.
actually was
Oh,
CGI
yeah.
or not, but yeah, it's, you know, they're silly, but it's still there's still fun parts in it, and like I said, just getting all these people together in a segment's already enough that I enjoy it.
Can I ask a question? I know
Mhm.
you watch a lot of anthology horror movies. Have you ever watched one where you felt like every segment is perfectly matched? Because I feel like there's always one that you're like, it was fine, and then but have you ever watched one where you're like all of them slay?
I am very biased, but I would say Necronomicon.
Okay.
Necronomicon is really good.
I love that movie, and I'm probably biased because like I watched that when I was I still remember I watched that for the first time ever in '96. After I only know that because after a Metallica concert, my cousin had rented it and we watched it, and I was just blown away by it. So I have great memories of watching that movie the first time, and then even we watched it again during Chattanooga Film Festival. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot how much I love this movie. So I would say that's definitely up there on my list at least.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I feel like I remember describing one as like all the segments work, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Because there definitely have been a small handful that feel that way.
I feel like this one didn't have a bad segment. I'd say Tales from the Hood doesn't have a bad segment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would
Tales from the Hood is
definitely go there.
fantastic.
The first Creep Show doesn't have a bad segment on it.
Yeah.
Outside.
Like some stronger than others, obviously, but
It's hard because you can't help but compare them. I feel like Mortuary Collection, the one with Clancy Brown, is coming to my mind. I haven't watched that in a little bit.
I don't remember it enough to.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover it, but that's a good question.
I need to double check. I feel like VHS 2 was another one that had just a lot of bangers in it.
Yeah.
Is that the one that had the end scene with the temple and they summon the devil?
I think that's it.
I think it's the one that had the cult one with all the
that's the same one.
Yeah, okay.
Because that segment, that was good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones in that.
All right, Jody, tell us about the eye.
Okay, so our final segment after Crypt Keeper John Carpenter makes another martini with an eyeball in the bottom of it is called The Eye, and this one is directed by Toby Hooper. We have a guy named Britt Matthews. He's a minor league baseball player played by Mark Hamill, and he's about to be called up to the majors. So this is a big deal. He is driving home one night and trying to find the right cassette to put in. So for everyone who thinks phones are the most distracting thing we've ever had while driving, you have never dealt with a CD case that has 74 CDs in it and you're flipping through pages, and this is tapes, but it's
8-track tapes,
all these things,
CDs.
they were
There have
way
been
harder to
things.
deal with in the car. I got CarPlay in the car. It's not causing me the problems this thing was.
Driving with my knees while I'm trying to exit a CD and pick another CD to listen to.
Yes. So anyway, he gets in an accident. Yeah.
Well, the reason he's driving is because his wife says she has something important to tell him, so he's driving home.
Right. Yeah, he's on his way home to find out what it is, and he gets in an accident. Swerves to avoid a deer and hits a tree, and in the end, he ends up losing one of his eyes.
And one of the keys is too, they also show when he reaches over for the tapes, he unbuckles a seatbelt.
yes,
So he's not wearing a seatbelt when it happens.
yeah,
The gag of the glass piece in the eye, though, shout out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
yeah. That's a good.
That's
one.
very Toby Hooper.
That'd make Lucio Fulci proud.
But
Yeah.
shout out to Mark Hamill for doing that, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
That's
After-
really to do like he really went through getting in a car accident,
Yeah.
having these reconstructive surgery, and then he did a movie about it. I was like, shout out, that's ballsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
I
we,
feel
see
like-
what do we see what tape he's reaching for? I was curious.
no, I
B
didn't.
I couldn't make it
52s.
out.
It's B52s.
Oh, really?
Mhm. I had that cassette, and I was like, hey, B52s.
I
That's awesome.
love you, Julia, because that is you knowing
Yep.
what the freaking physical media is in the
Nice.
movie.
That's real nice.
I still listen to cassettes almost every day.
Oh, I
so-
know.
But I forgot to mention too. I feel like Mark Hamill's really having a good time with this one, because he also has a Southern accent through this entire thing. So it's worth mentioning. He's really.
Is it
playing
because you're in the South, Jody? Is that why we have to talk about his Southern accent being so good?
Yeah.
How is his Southern accent?
It's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Serviceable.
So anyway, he doesn't want his career to end. He said, I'm a baseball player. I can't do this with one eye. And a new surgeon comes in named Dr. Lang, who says, well, I have a way that we might be able to do something. We can do a full eye transplant. And somebody just died recently. They have a good eye that's the right size. It's the wrong color, but we can put a lens on it. And you can have your vision back. You can have your eye back. And so he goes for it. And he gets this brown eye implanted and has to put a little contact lens on it. And he goes home and he can see with it. And everything, seems to be going well. But he starts having these visions. He looks out his window and sees like a woman's body jump up from under the ground, or he's throwing stuff down the garbage disposal in his sink, and he sees an arm in there, and he just keeps having all these violent visions of dead bodies. And he starts digging around in his backyard and thinks he sees feet that are somebody buried under there, and it turns out they're not there. Meanwhile, during all this, his wife reveals the surprise, and it's that she's pregnant, and he's there to build the nursery. And so that he's got these two things going on. His family's coming together, but at the same time, he keeps having these violent moments. And he keeps having these weird, it makes sense that he and his wife have, urges towards each other, but they're like bizarre sexual urges. Like she's not into it, and he's really sleazy coming on to her.
Really aggressive, and she's not used to that.
aggressive.
I
He
think he was like
bites her.
a sweetheart before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For all you Mark Hamill fans, you get to see Mark Hamill's balls in this like flat out on the screen. So there you go.
Yeah.
Uh,
Why do you think? Why do you
Uh,
think I rented this movie, you guys? I mean, did I not say I had a crush on Mark Hamill?
There you go. You
Get
get a
to
lot
see
of Mark
his,
Hamill in this one.
some Skywalker booty for a long
I was gonna say
time.
booty. I was like booty.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
going
Oh,
for it.
God.
If you ever wanted to see him screwing Twiggy, here you go.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, legends screwing legends. I mean, beautiful. Just beautiful.
Well, and as anyone who spends a lot of time watching horror movies probably guessed, this eye is not from a good man. This eye came from a serial killer who killed women and then had sex with them after they were dead. And so all of these urges are coming from that eye. And he starts feeling like it's taking over his body so that he can get back to killing. And so he goes back to tell his wife about it, but it's just that the killer kind of emerges and takes over. And so he starts chasing her around and tackling her, and he ties her hair to a table. And that's when she starts trying to remind him of who he is and who he's supposed to be. And she breaks through just enough that instead of killing her with the garden shears, he stabs himself in the eye with the garden shears. And
Because of the Bible.
yes,
Yeah,
because of
there's
the
that
Bible.
weird Bible thing. Yeah.
No, I was like, oh, I know the verse. I knew it was coming as soon as I was like, when she told him to look at it, I was like, oh, you have to pluck your eye out if it offends you. He's got to do it. It's got to be done.
Oh yeah, because they do have that one kind of little awkward scene in there too, where they're having sex and she flops her hand over and it lands on the Bible.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Chekhov's Bible. Yeah, I saw that. Got to be shot.
And in the end, that's what kills him. Because stabbing garden shears through your eye, not good for the rest of your head.
It depends how deep you go, but he went pretty deep.
He went pretty
Yeah,
deep. I
he
mean,
went
he's
pretty
in a
deep.
bag back in John Carpenter's morgue. So, you
Yeah,
know,
This is true.
it did the job.
All right, Terry, start us off. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. What more could you want than Mark Hamill going batshit? I love that. I love how committed he was to this part. Because it's just like he did not have to go that hard, but he was like, no, I'm gonna do this effing movie. I'm just gonna go for it. And I respect him so hard for this. Terrifying. Also, just like the thought of like, I don't know, having that other person's visions in you that you can't shake. And even when you're trying to fight it so hard, you know, it's like, what can you do? And when he tried to go get help from the doctor, and it was just like, literally, like, he's like, man, I gave you the eye. Like, it's up to you to figure it out from here. Like, no help whatsoever. It's kind of devastating. So this man's just left to his own devices to try to solve his own problem. And unfortunately, I feel like it's a little similar-ish to the hair thing, where it's like, yeah, you know, the guy, it was for vanity, and this guy was for his professional life, you know, of what he thought he could do, and having to let go of that dream. And he thought this was going to be an easy fix, but the doctor told him it was experimental. So there's always a chance if they tell you it's experimental, it's freaking experimental. So
Well, it's experimental to get a haunted eye. It's
you never know if
Well,
it doesn't take, or if something goes wrong, or if you get an infection. Anytime you go under
yeah,
the
that's-
knife, you know.
that's something you expect, but not like serial killer haunted eye.
No,
I will
I mean,
say-
obviously.
You should probably ask where the eye is coming from. That might be
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
But you
I would have
also don't want to
questions.
know always either, because sometimes, I mean, usually if you're getting an eye, it's a donor and somebody who's passed away, and you hoping it's not something that was terrible. Right? We just watched Birth Rebirth the other night. Very terrifying movie about some parts being used
on my
and
list.
other people. And dear God, you sometimes you don't want to know where they're getting the things from. You know?
The doctor does tell him though, like, well, if it doesn't work, worst case scenario is you still just don't have an eye. So the doctor did kind of downplay any risk. He's like, yeah, we can try. If it doesn't work, yeah, you're still right here with no eye.
Yeah.
All right, Julia.
Yeah.
So this was the segment that you know, I was always very excited about because Mark Hamill was in it. I'd like to shout out Roger Corman is in this segment as one of the
Yes,
doctors.
that's one of the doctors, Dr.
Yes.
Bergman. Yes.
So yay for Roger Corman. I'm going to say something a little controversial. I was watching this the first time and I was like, I understand what you say that Mark Hamill's giving everything, but I also was like, I don't think he's very good. Like, is he a good actor? I'd never thought it before. And I was like, oh, is he not very good? I can't tell. It's one of those performances where like, I don't know. So my friend and I, whenever we watched it, this was the one that we always like, whenever we would yell at each other from across the room, is it my eye? Like that. If anything happened. It's a fun segment and I think he does a good job, and I think it's fun to see him and Twiggy. But yeah, I don't know. Dubious.
Oh no, Julia, the
It's
love
like when
of
you-
your life. Oh
I know,
no.
but it's like one of those things where like you like an actor so much and you like them so much that it kind of overrides their actual performances and things. And then if they
He's
like
just
kind of
such
step
a
back,
nice dude, you know.
no, it's fun to see him be scary, and I think he does a good job of like really trying to go for it. But
yeah, it makes me wonder, like, if he did like the Steven Weber Shining route, like, would he make a
That-
good Jack Torrance?
I feel like his performance in this, though, he was kind of playing that Tales from the Crypt thing where they do go like a little bit campy, a little bit over the top with it. Because a lot of times that's what you get on Tales is you've got somebody who's, you know, generally a good actor, but they play like this insane character that's way over the top, chewing the scenery. So I feel like maybe we got a little bit of that out of this performance.
So the one thing I thought of, have any of you seen the movie The Machine that he's in?
Not
With
yet,
Burt
but I wanna-
Kreischer or whatever.
no.
He basically plays unhinged over the top. And I wish you'd have brought some of that into this role. I think if he took this role today, he plays so unhinged and over the top, and it would be just like you said, Tales from the Crypt, kind of wacky in a good way.
Mondo, what do you think?
I love this segment, and hey, also Mark Hamill also rocking the sleazy dad stash there in this one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really
Your
like that.
stash-filled movie.
Yeah. The scene that got me is when he's digging in the backyard, and she goes, why don't you stop and come inside? He goes, I can't, I have to finish. And she goes, finish what? And he goes, digging your grave. And I
Yeah.
was like, ooh, that like sent chills. I'm like, oh, that's Luke. What happened to you? Meanwhile, Vader's going, good, embrace the dark side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this one a lot. I thought it was really, really well done. I think the trope with the eye, I think, was actually done in Tales from the Crypt as well. Wasn't it? Or I might be thinking of
I think
something
it was
different.
something else, but something similar.
But I still like it. Like you kind of
Yeah.
know where it's coming from, right? And start seeing those images. I like as you're seeing the images too. He's also seeing this guy's childhood, like his mother abusing him and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And then it delves into some pretty horrific imagery. And then that sex scene was very, very uncomfortable. In the best way possible. I mean, it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a very, very loving scene. It's supposed to uncomfortable, make you feel kind of icky. And but the end though, I did like. I don't really care for the Bible verse at the very end. Like, I'm not like I don't think it needed to go with the religious route of it, but I do get it. But what I did love is I love like at the end though, he basically killed himself to save his wife, and like basically able to talk through that and get through it. Remind me of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 when what's her name is talking to Jesse and talking him out of Freddy's body basically.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of cool. So I'll also compare everything to Nightmare on Elm Street if I can.
Yeah, as you should.
As you should. That's the
So
way.
I'm a fan, and this might have been my favorite of the three. I can't quite decide.
Yeah, we'll get to our favorites in a second. Jody, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this is a really good one. Like I said, great performances, even if they're not great as in like, like realistic. I feel like it's an entertaining performance. Maybe that's the way to say it.
I
like
think
seeing,
I'll go for that. It is an entertaining performance.
yeah. So I like seeing it. It's kind of a Nick Cagey thing, like
Yeah.
he doesn't have to be good if I enjoy watching what I'm seeing. So that's kind of what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's some good disturbing images. I mean, Toby Hooper knows how to like make a quick flash of something that makes you kind of recoil from the screen.
Mhm.
And that's what a lot of the horror is, these quick flashes of just awful things happening. And I always like a story where you've got a good guy who slowly gets corrupted by something. Like that's a good horror trope for me. Something like what's that movie? Oculus. You were talking about Mike Flanagan.
Oh
earlier.
yeah.
I am
As
such
the
a
dad
fan of
slowly just
Oculus.
descends. Yeah, like I like that. I think it's a good horror trope, and especially him being a husband who everyone's like, "Hey, dude, you can take a break. You love your wife too much." And to see him slowly become this monster, I think it's good. I think it's really well done.
Yeah, I do think, Jody, your point, they did make a really great they made a great effort to show they had that it was this loving husband and wife with a great relationship. It wasn't like the estranged, like these little pieces start coming out. No, they had a strong
It's
relationship.
it's the Jack Torrance thing, the movie versus the book. Like in the book, he's a nice guy who slowly goes crazy, instead of in the movie, he's a kind of crazy guy who goes crazier.
Well, he's not a nice guy in the book though, because he's kicked out
He's
of
tried.
teaching for punching a
Oh, yeah.
student. So
Yeah.
he's not really a good guy to start with. And he breaks his kid's arm by
He's
yanking him.
He's a better guy, I guess. compared to Jack Torrance.
Dubious. He's
Yeah.
never really a good guy. And he's a drunk. He almost hits a kid. Like it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's
I
Stephen
haven't-
King in the late 70s too.
I haven't read the book to comment, but I mean, I imagine though, I had some teachers growing up that I thought were awesome teachers that probably would have punched a kid if they wouldn't have gotten fired for it.
Sure.
And probably maybe justified. Like I said, it was, I did go to Cheyenne High School in Las Vegas, which was not the best high school you could
Yeah.
have gone
My
to.
condolences, my friend.
See, you know what?
So-
Earlier on, we're talking about that. I mentioned where I went to high school. She was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh yeah," because there's a reputation.
Yeah. We know. Us Las Vegas Nevadans, we know.
So what okay, what I want to know is why is it always the good guy who gets the serial killer appendage or eye or something?
Mhm.
I want to make a movie where there's a serial killer who gets a good guy's eye
Ooh.
and like gets tortured by good visions.
And then he can finally see clearly what he's doing the
That
whole
feels-
time.
And wants
That
to do
feels
nice
like a Christopher
things.
Landon movie for some
Oh,
reason.
it
does.
Like freaky, but
Freaky, happy death
backwards.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd watch
Yeah,
that.
it would be,
yeah, absolutely.
that'd
I
be
want
fun.
like
Like
a
you,
soup kitchen feeding the homeless. He's pissed off about it. Like,
Yeah,
so mad.
like all these nice things. That'd be great. And then
yeah, because you always have
ideas.
people
Isn't-
descending into madness, but you never have them descending out of madness. And you're like, okay, you start out as a serial killer and you end up
Mhm.
as a nice guy. I like it.
So they did this in the Batman comics. I think it was the White Knight comic they did it with, where the Joker gets treatment for his mental illnesses, and they realize that Batman's a pretty shitty person. So he makes a campaign against Batman while doing and everything he does as the city is like all these great things making the city better, and he's showing how Batman's just making it worse. but it's watching his slow descent
Mhm.
into like into non-madness, I guess.
Right.
It's a really cool comic series. If
Yeah.
I hope they turn that one into to an animated film.
That's cool.
So yeah. So you got to imagine though, Mark Hamill in the early 90s, he's been over the Star Wars thing. He probably hasn't really done a ton. He hasn't reached his like voice acting phase where he like picks up again. So I'm thinking he's like trying to find his niche, trying to find something to kind of reinvigorate his career. So he probably thinks this is a big juicy, like we talked about The Shining, about like a going Jack Nicholson kind of role. So
And
I
he gets to be
appreciate-
directed by Toby Hooper, which would be a
That's
big
what I'm going to
draw
say. These
from
legends, yeah.
pretty much anybody.
Right. But also again, Toby Hooper in the early 90s wasn't having the biggest career either. He was doing some Tales from the Crypt. I can't remember what else he did in that time. But again, they're kind of trying to jumpstart. So I appreciate that they're kind of using that to kind of go big. So it's like again, it's at least as far as live action, that's is the only like big performance I think Mark Hamill's done. And again, especially doing a nude scene and going for it. So I really appreciate that. And again, we have some great
It's going to say booty bags. I'm sorry, booty bags.
Hey, you know
again-
what? You know what? It's a shock around the clock scare fest to keep you coming back for more, you guys. They're
Yes,
There you
booty
go.
vest.
Delivering.
You have to go to the video store and go behind the old Western doors to get to booty bags.
Mhm. The
Yeah.
beads.
The dirty room. I
Or the
love the
beaded
dirty
curtain,
room.
yeah.
I loved.
Curtain,
I used to
yeah.
work at a video. My first job was a video store, and I used to
Mhm.
love to go into that room when there were guys in there and start putting stuff away because it would make them so nervous. And I was like, yes,
Amazing.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, so I mean, again, Mark Hamill's has actually had a great little career playing villains. He was the Trickster in The Flash, obviously the Joker in the Batman series, the voice of Chucky in the new Child's Play. He's doing Skeletor in the animated Masters of the Universe show, the newer one. So again, he's having a really fun little career doing all these fun voiceover stuff.
In one of the
Um,
best roles, or one of the best episodes of What We Do in the Shadows too,
Yeah.
the Jackie Daytona episode.
Twiggy
bartender.
again, was a big, fashion icon. She was in the Blues Brothers movie. Again, she was in the same Tales from the Crypt episode as David Warner, The Arrival. Again, we shout out to Roger Corman for his little bit. I wrote down some
Yay.
bit parts that he's done. So he was in The Godfather 2, The Howling, Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, Apollo 13, Scream 3, and Sharktopus.
yes. I
So
love me some Roger Corman. I just love
Yeah.
that he started so many people's careers and really
Oh, yeah.
gave, he didn't give them money, but he gave them the opportunity to, start. And I love that there's so many people that this one man has had this influence on. And I think it's great. Like if you take Roger Corman out of the equation, how many careers don't get started?
Yeah.
Right. And they're all like paying him back for these little homages or cameos.
Yeah.
So
Sweet.
that's really cool.
It's pretty awesome. Like I know that if you guys are, I don't think anyone's coming to Vegas for the Joe Bob's Jamboree, but they're going to do a Roger Corman tribute with him and his
Ooh.
wife.
That's cool.
Nice.
Nice.
It should be
And
really
his
cool.
voice is so lovely. He's
Mhm.
got this deep voice. I
I
got
mean-
to do Joe Dante had a script called The Man with the Kaleidoscope Eyes that was a biopic of Roger Corman. And
cool.
I got to go to a reading of it once here in LA, and it was Bill Hader as Roger Corman.
Wow.
And so he
Oh,
was doing
cool.
the Roger Corman voice the whole time. And I was like, this is fantastic. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
so sad it hasn't gotten made yet. So it needs to get made.
That's good casting. Bill Hader,
Yeah.
Roger Corman, probably a little tall, but other than that, I
Dude,
can totally see it.
Yeah,
After
because it
watching
was
Barry-
about like right before Easy Rider came out, and like he took LSD to like show that he was part of like the counterculture, and it was about that kind of that incident, and it
Wow.
was really cool.
Nice.
That's really neat. And I've ever seen Bill Hader and Barry. Like, there's nothing that man couldn't do.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm so
That
glad
dude
he's
could do anything.
successful. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, especially someone that broke out of being just a guy who was typecast as a comedic character to be able to show that range. It's so good.
And also just a
Um,
guy who was like, I'm an editor, and now I'm a superstar. Like it
Yeah.
just kind of
Mhm.
came out of nowhere. I love that.
All right. And then Jody, talk about John Agar.
Yeah, no, I put him on here because he's one of these guys that's been around doing movies since like the late 40s. And he kind of found a niche doing B horror movies in the 50s and 60s. Some of his movies, Tarantula, The Mole People, Attack of the Puppet People, Hand of Death, Daughter of Dr. Jekyll, Revenge of the Creature. And he was in Nightbreed as a victim. But he was also Shirley Temple's first husband, just to add a little true life weirdness to the whole thing.
Yeah.
That is random as hell. Oh my gosh.
I wonder if she likes horror movies. I guess she must have seen all the movies her husband was in.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just one of these guys that was in a ton of old horror. So I have to think John Carpenter or Toby Hooper knew this guy. Like they grew up with his stuff, and he was the lead in all those movies too. So yeah, casting him is pulling like digging through the crates. It's a deep cut, but yeah.
But the film nerds like us appreciate those deep cuts, don't we?
Yes.
So to kind of wrap this episode this segment up, I think it makes the one before it, the hair one, look even worse because they're very similar in their themes and the kind of the plot structure a little bit. And it's just, I think it's a much better version of that. So I kind of think that the hair one, it looks even worse by comparison to how good this one is. All right, Jody, take us home.
Okay, so our final synopsis is the last segment with our morgue attendant, John Carpenter. He hears some people start to come in, and so he goes and gets in one of the body bags and says he's not supposed to be here. And so he lays down. He's been dead the whole time.
But you didn't bring up when he turns around, he's got the googly eyes.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The eye segment ends with him turning around with googly eye glasses.
And all I can think of is like, I like those just laying around in a morgue.
Oh yeah,
Hey, you got to have some sort of levity in a morgue, right?
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Normal morgue equipment.
But it's so much fun because he's having so much fun.
Oh
yes,
clearly having a blast.
The two attendants come in, and they are Toby Hooper and Tom Arnold as the two attendants. And Toby goes to get some coffee while Tom starts carving away at John, who he'll occasionally like pop his head up and look at the guts that are being pulled out of him, and it ends with them getting ready to cut open his head and him making a bunch of faces. He's just mugging. John Carpenter just mugging for the camera at this point, and it's fantastic because
I didn't know he was so silly.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first watched this movie. I've always heard John Carpenter as this like very serious, grumpy man.
Yeah, me too.
And this is him just being very silly, very fun.
Well, maybe not silly, but if you ever see him when he plays live,
I saw him when he played live, and he was not silly at all. He just stood there. Like he was it was serious.
See, he didn't look silly here in Vegas, but he also looked like he's having just an awesome time. Like, because he's always glancing over to Sun. You can just tell he's happy to be up there. And so I think that's maybe kind of what I pulled out of it. Is like he looks like he's having a good time for the first time or second time in his life. Just being the first time.
You know what this segment reminded me of is that there's no one hungrier than the coroner, because in every goddamn TV show or movie they're always eating or drinking something. It's just they never
they do it to disgust us. It's disgusting thinking about them eating food.
Yeah.
Like even from the beginning, it looked like he was either like cutting into a body and he was going to eat it, but it was like pie or something. You're like, oh no, it's like a punch and pie moment. I don't know, just.
But it's also the normality of it, because I have a friend who's an actress who decided she was going to play a coroner in a movie. So she called the Los Angeles coroner's office to ask if she could go take a tour, and they said yes. But she didn't know they were going to take her to like the room, like that room where there's just bodies everywhere. And she's like, there was a guy who had jumped from a building and they were working on him, and it was people who were just talking like you would at any job. They were just talking about what movie they saw that weekend and how's your wife doing, and like it was normal, and it totally traumatized her. And it was like but it's this thing where you get numb to it, right? You just have to not really think about these are people, these are bodies. It's just my job.
Sometimes you just got to pull up the googly eyes.
Yeah. All right, let's do our does anyone have any final thoughts before we do our favorite segment section?
Well, I wanted to say I'm very disappointed that this did not become a series. Because if they could make, I don't know if the production values could have stayed as high as they were for this movie, because it looked like there was a little bit of money in it compared to some of the later Tales episodes. But yeah, man, I want more of this. This would have been fun.
And you already know you have Wes Craven and Sam Raimi on board, right? So just have them do the next one.
Yeah.
Could you imagine John Carpenter resurrecting this now? It may be so great. I'd pay to see old man John Carpenter as
oh my God.
Yeah,
he would have less makeup.
I was gonna say if I didn't want to.
This is true.
Yeah, and I think it's the shame of it is that like because it didn't get a theatrical release, at least as far as I understand.
Mhm. It was a TV movie.
It was a TV movie, so it doesn't really never got the exposure that it really deserves. Like if this was released like a Crip series, Creep Show situation, I think it'd been much bigger.
Yeah,
In
no,
the
I could
early
definitely
'90s,
see
who
that.
wouldn't want to go see this movie?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of fan service in it, right? And I mean in the best way possible. So it might also be one of those things where to the mainstream, we're all, I guess, all like I said, film nerds and horror nerds. Of course, we're gonna fall in love with seeing David Naughton and Sam Raimi and Toby Hooper. But I think for the general public, are they gonna have that tickle nostalgia that we are?
Yeah.
Be as excited as we are? I don't think so.
Never know.
But they got some of those other people in here that are like crossover people, like Stacy Keach
That is
and
true.
Yeah.
Robert Carradine, and Mark
Twiggy.
Hamill.
Twiggy.
Those are all
Yeah.
big stars in the regular world, so to speak.
Yeah, I feel like
That's true, too.
Mark
That's very
Hamill
true,
alone
too.
would have been a draw. I mean,
Yeah.
we've already heard he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I think if marketed well, this movie could have done really well, but it is what it is.
It's
All
still
right.
kind of criminal how unknown it is today,
Mhm.
even like how so few people seen it. So if you're listening to us and haven't seen this movie yet, God, go watch it. It's on Peacock right now, streaming if you have Peacock.
It's on Shudder.
It's
on
on
Shudder? Oh,
Shudder.
cool.
It's on Screenbox.
Yeah.
And also
It's
you're
on Tubi.
promoting it right now. So you're doing the job of shouting out
Yeah.
body bags, and people will watch it because of your episode. So you are furthering the viewing of this
So.
film.
And then if you like it, tell 5 people you liked it, and we'll just keep spreading the word about how
Spread
great
the-
Bobby.
It's
Spread
a
the
good
love.
MLM. Oh my gosh, yes.
Body bags, chain letter.
If only we can figure out how we can make money off this.
If you don't tell someone to watch it, you'll die in 5 days. Just calling
And
it
then
right now.
Send $1 to the first person on the list, and send it to I
Terry,
remember
did
these
you-
letters.
Did
I
you
remember
ever do these? There used to be, I don't know, I'm sure boys didn't do this, but girls did this where they had panty chain letters. So it was like you would buy a pair of panties for the next person, and it was just like this never ending panty chain. Did you know? Everyone's
No.
shaking
we-
their head no.
we,
They're
we-
looking
we-
at me
we
like I'm
definitely
crazy.
we definitely didn't do this because what? Because yeah.
Sorry,
I did not send my
Julia.
panties to anyone.
No,
I
Okay.
think my growing up era was a little more conservative than your growing up era. Clearly, because I always know the Bible verses and Julia doesn't when we
Nope.
see any of these religious.
I grew
I
up
grew up in
rural
Las Vegas. What do you
Tennessee.
expect from me? Come on.
Yep.
I mean, if someone sent me a cool pair of underwear, I think that was cool. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
all
right. I
all
thought it was a cool idea. And it was like
Yeah.
underwear you wouldn't necessarily pick for yourself, and but it was. So I got
I
a few
think it depends
pairs.
on your size.
Well, you put the size in the next one, so people knew what size to send to the next person.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. You've learned something new today, everybody.
Yeah.
Huzzah!
I'm gonna
Huzzah.
send Jason some G strings.
There we go.
Yeah. what
Hell
color?
yeah.
I'll send some tie to whiteys to Jody.
Ooh.
Sure,
I
send
like
the most
it.
uncomfortable pair of underwear you can find.
Yeah, very much.
But hot.
But hot. All
has
right.
to be said.
Let's do our favorite segments. Terry, what was your favorite segment?
Oh my gosh. I think my favorite segment is the first one, honestly. I think it's the strongest. I think it was terrifying. It was straight out the gate. Scary. That mural on the bathroom wall alone was worth the price of admission for me. I love a creepy, potentially satanic ritual that looks like on a bathroom wall. I really love that. And I also freaking was obsessed with Robert Carradine as a child, and that has not stopped. Really fun to watch him in this segment.
Nice. All right, Julia.
The first one as well. I think that because it feels so concise to me, and that there's nothing superfluous at all. I feel like it's and as again, we're fun to watch all the cameos. Wes Craven is a delight in this. And it just works well. And then everybody wins at the end, and you get a little snappy one-liner, and you're out.
Nice. Jody.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the hive mind here. I think the first one's the best. It's a succinct little short film all on its own. Like it doesn't need anything else. All the other ones, I think, benefit from being part of this movie, having them all together. But I think this one could have stood on its own. It's just really well made.
Armando.
Man, I want to say the third one, but I can't. Like, I just, as much as I want to say the third one, because I love that a lot. That first one, though, if I was gonna watch it, I would watch that first segment and just turn it off. Like, not that there's anything wrong. If I had 20-30 minutes to kill, I could just watch that first segment over and over again and smile at all the cameos. And first one was definitely the most fun. So I'm gonna hive mind in this one too.
And those hot cars. I love cars, and I love classic cars, and those were some hot cars in that segment too.
Cars in there, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with everyone else. The first one is a good bit better than the other ones. I think the third one is just a little bit behind. The second one just pales in comparison. But the first one, is got the whole package right there, and it's tight. You got some great cameos. It's got everything you wanted from all these other ones.
but in the third one, you could see the whole package. So
Hey,
sure do.
oh.
I will say though,
Um,
even though that's my favorite one, though, I don't dislike any of these.
same.
Every
same.
single one of them's fun,
Yeah.
just varying degrees.
Yeah.
One that's interesting. So I've just asked this question to Jody. So in the first one, when she's working at the convenience store, they have obviously like bulletproof glass separating you
Mhm.
from the customers. Are there any gas stations like that where you're from in Tennessee?
Yeah, no, there's definitely the gas station that just has the attendant and not like a full store and everything like
But do
that.
they have bulletproof glass and all that where you
I'm
can?
sure they do.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because if you're out in Vegas and you think you're in a bad part of town and you see a gas station has bulletproof glass and they actually will have a full store that you can't walk into, but you can point at things and tell them you want it.
Yeah.
You should probably just not be in that area.
You're talking about North Las Vegas, am I correct?
That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Mike Dolis again.
Yeah,
but
Mondo?
my
We have
favorite
those here in
casino.
LA.
My favorite
I was gonna
casino
say,
is in
so
North
Mondo?
Las Vegas.
I went through a Taco Bell in LA that had that. It was by the Forum.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a Jack in the Box near MacArthur Park that has bulletproof glass as well.
So
Bad
what I have to
sign.
say about current Las Vegas is you have North Las Vegas proper now, which is actually its own like incorporated city.
Sure.
That's actually the nice North Las Vegas. Where I grew up around was not the nice North Las Vegas area.
Well, my favorite casino in Las Vegas is Jerry's Nugget, which is in North Las Vegas, because it has the best coffee shop, the best prime rib sandwich, and you can play $2 roulette, $2 blackjack, and then get free drinks while you play. It's awesome.
There's a casino here called the Silver Nugget too, which you
Yeah.
you probably remember that one. But they do wrestling shows there, and when I was a kid, they do wrestling shows, and our parents would just drop us off and leave us there. And we're like 11 years old, and it's in like the worst part of town. And then going back to those nowadays for wrestling shows, I'm like, I would never fucking I wouldn't like if my 20-year-old child was going there, I'd be like, I'm going with you, or who's going with you? Or I'll send a bodyguard. Like,
All right. Well, Mondo, give us our song of the day.
alrighty, I think I've done this band before, but when I watched this movie, I had to pick this song based on the name of the record itself. It's a band from Sweden, and like most of my songs are from European bands, called Entrails. They're an interesting early early Swedish death metal band. So they have that HM2 guitar pedal sound, which sounds like a chainsaw, which is awesome. But kind of the interesting thing about this band is they did a bunch of demos in the early 90s and just never did anything with them because they just, people wouldn't grow up, go their separate ways. And then it was in 2009 or 10, they got back. The guy who was writing the songs of the band said, you know what? We wrote some really cool songs. It's been 20 years. Let's record them. And got the band back together, some new members and some old members, and recorded all these songs. It's just a killer death metal record. And it's the first record they did. It's called Tales from the Morgue, which just fits this episode perfectly.
What's the name of the band?
Entrails.
Entrails is the name of the band. Cool.
Entrails. Tales from the Morgue. And the song I'll pick is it might be the last song or the next last song off the record. It's called The Morgue. But if you like that early Swedish death metal sound, which is less technical than their American counterparts, but I think way more aggressive and more atmospheric, which I like, check them out.
All right. So we're going to do something a little bit different with our rest of our episode, since we have the survivalists on our show. In lieu of the horror news and dad advice, let's go through each segment and figure out the best way to survive the situation.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
First segment is you don't leave the booth ever. You just stay in the booth when there's sketchy people and you're like, nope, sorry, not my job description, just staying in the booth.
And you stay alert. You got to stay alert because, getting like Twitter pated by, a hot man in a hot car, and not, doing your duty, like making sure you get the license, making sure he gets his credit card back. I mean, even though that ended up saving her later, it's dubious. And also remember to keep the key if you're going to leave the booth at all.
Yeah, because doesn't she have the carbon copy with his information on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she could have easily got his number or some protocol to get him that. She didn't have to run after him.
What I will say though, I think he kind of asked her out right there too. If she just left with him right there, she'd been safe.
Yeah. Moving on.
Sure. But it is also a conundrum because even if she stays in the booth, Bill, our Robert Carradine, never left. So he probably, and he has keys, so he probably would have come in. So I would say don't take a job that you're in the middle of the night by yourself in the middle of nowhere behind bulletproof glass. maybe.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I mean, he did smash that glass down too with
did.
a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So
would be
even
s-
staying in the booth is not completely safe.
It would be so fun though to smash a glass window with a sledgehammer.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Julia
Such a
loves to
blast.
smash things. She had a smash birthday party where she got a bunch of
Oh,
breakables and just
I'm-
people went to town.
I want to do that.
So we
That'd be
missed a
fun.
perfect opportunity when our old office got bulldozed. We cleaned it out the day before, and I told my coworker, I said we should go get some sledgehammers and come in here and just fuck this
Yes.
place up because getting bulldozed tomorrow. Glad we didn't, because apparently they did a walkthrough before they bulldozed and made sure we got our security deposit back. But
What do you? How do you think that you could survive that first one?
I think if you're gonna work that job, get a weapon of some sort, a taser or something.
Spray.
Spray.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to
No,
have something, and or maybe even like a safety vest, because if it's already bulletproof, like I would still want to be extra careful.
Mm-hmm.
take
yeah, that
some.
it just seems like a bad job. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
I
the
think she
end,
can-
like it's
she
just a
can do
bad
better.
job.
I think
Well,
she just
she's-
wanted to have a place where she could study at night and not
Sure.
be
Yeah.
No, I get it.
while
I-
she
when
could, make some money while she studied.
Yeah,
When
makes
I
perfect
was in
sense.
college, I took a job at a hotel, like doing the overnight stuff. So all I did was like I cashed out and then I hung around in case anybody needed to check in sometime in the middle of the night. So
Mhm.
I was just by myself, college student, and I generally just watched Jerry Springer all night because there's nothing on and I had to stay awake.
Okay, so what if someone came in? They're trying to kill you. Like that could happen.
Well,
to you
no,
too?
and that was definitely, the door was locked. There was a layer of locks, and I wasn't supposed to let anybody in until I had verified that they had a reservation, yada yada yada. So, I don't know if it had bulletproof glass in Jackson, Tennessee, but it was Jackson, Tennessee, so it might have had bulletproof glass.
She also needed to look behind her a few more times, because every time she
Yeah.
thought she was in the clear, I was like, "Girl, look behind you, look behind you, look behind you." So stay alert, stay alive, right?
I did think she was going to use her psychology studies or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Kind of like as a Ginny in Friday
Yeah,
2.
Friday 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was going to come back into play. She was going to use some psychology
Mm-hmm.
mind trick.
Yeah, also
Definitely
just
don't
mu-
go follow the creepy guy into the bathroom to go check.
Definitely
on him.
not.
Like,
Yeah.
just leave him. Somebody else will check in the morning.
Yeah, I'm not going in there to check on him. And yeah, I also I'll be unbiased, but take some self-defense classes.
Yeah.
Everyone should learn some self-defense, and because I'd have just choked that dude unconscious. It would have been that difficult.
As
All
far
right.
as the hair segment, I think this is actually good survival for both segments. Is if you're getting some sort of experimental treatment, really look into what it is, right? Because David Warner in hair gives him a very good. It's a protein solution we put on your head. He's very vague about it, and he's so excited that he doesn't delve into it. I'm like, don't just do that, man. You have to check and see, look into that, look into the company. I mean, even if you don't have the, look on the internet, see what you see, Better Business Bureau, that kind of stuff, where I feel like if if you're doing something that drastic in both cases, then you really need to be knowing what's going on.
He was so desperate, though. He wasn't going to read the fine print. He was like, "Oh, proprietary information. Okay, understood. Like, you don't want to let that information out. Okay." Like,
No, always read the fine print. That's
Mhm.
that's a weird survival tip, but there you are.
Yeah.
As a male, I'm just gonna speak for all males out there and say we're fucking stupid. So I did so that's part of it too. We're just idiots. And when it comes to healthcare, especially, we're like some of the worst people. I'm terrible at going to the doctor. So if I'd have woken up and the hair's coming out of my face, I just gone back to sleep. I'm like, fuck it, I'll deal with this later.
I mean, Jason and I have already survived that one, right?
Yeah,
Because
pretty
once we looked and the hair was going away, we just, you embrace it. Yeah, embrace it. Be yourself.
I didn't
you
even
don't,
think
you
about
don't have
this.
to go for experimental Fabio hair.
There was an Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode that basically uses the premise where Carl gets long hair and ends up being like a clown demon or something like that.
Yep. I remember that one.
All right, and then for the last one, let's do it from the perspective of Twiggy. So your husband's going insane from a demonic eye surgery.
I would go to the doctor, definitely, that my husband went to, and try to impress upon him that he tried to choke me out and that kind of stuff. I don't feel like she is as on alert as much as she should be in this movie. She doesn't seem as affected by his transformation as I would be. And I'd be like, what the hell, man? What is going on? Let us get this under control. Because really he says I'm digging your grave. And she's like, oh, and just kind of walks away. And I'm like, no, this is
Nice.
big, man.
Yeah. And there was plenty of signs that he was falling apart before it got to that point at the end, right? Like it wasn't just that the biting and all that stuff. So he got aggressive there. That's, if he's not normally like that, that's weird. But then like he's making the crib and he just suddenly starts screaming at the top of his lungs while sitting on the ground. That would be when, as a spouse, I go, hey, you need some help. Like, do we need to take you somewhere?
Yeah,
This is not normal. Like,
worst comes to
let's work this
worst.
out.
Yeah, you like worst comes to worst, you 5150 that guy, right? You're like, you
Mhm.
need to go in and get help, even if you don't want to. Like, we are going to take you in. Like, you got to take that kind of level of help because he's clearly losing his mind.
Well, yeah, and also the headaches and stuff. I think she probably wrote off part of it because she was like, well, he's in
Sure.
pain and he's still healing, and
Yeah.
maybe he's got this migraine situation, which can, affect some of your moods and stuff like that too, and how you interact. Obviously, you probably not going to be as wild as he gets, but yeah. I think some intervention would have not been a bad move.
Yeah.
On her part.
And I know it's easy to say, but just maybe you need to leave for a couple days and figure, I'm like, you know what, like you're acting weird. I'm going to go see my mom for a couple days or something like that, which is way easier said than done. Don't
I
get me
feel
wrong.
Probably
like
would have
that's
hunted her down though.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like that's
probably.
kind of abandoning him though. Like, in his hour of need and saying, you really need to get help, even if that means like strapping him into a bed or whatever it is for his own good. I feel like you would have to be proactive.
Well, also he had like a whole team of friends. So maybe you go to them
Sure.
and say, hey, why don't you take this guy out for a beer, or just go have come by and say, hey, how you doing? Like none of his
That's
teammates
fair.
ever visit him or check up on him.
This is a story about how guys in their middle age are all isolated and don't have friends, and we need more friends.
That's why you start a podcast.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
you guys are so
That's a good point.
cute. Oh, it's true.
That's what friends are for.
Uh-huh.
You guys can call me anytime
Oh.
and talk to my voicemail.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Maybe
guys-
I will.
No,
If I ever get a possessed eye, I'll give you a call.
I appreciate that.
But I'm not going to the doctor anyway. So
I was gonna say
get to that point.
I have your guys' number saved in my phone, so I would know it's you.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up another episode. Julie and Terry, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
Guys.
on the internet, all over. You guys can find us at Horror Movie Survival Guide. Our show streams on all the amazing platforms that you get podcast on. Like Julia said at the top of the show, we've been doing this for over 6 years, and there's over 300 episodes strong. Plenty of content for you to devour and dive into. We have some fun stuff. And Julia, I'm going to shout out too, has an amazing short film that's doing the festival circuit right now that just premiered at the Maine Film Festival because it was shot in Maine because it's a Stephen King dollar baby.
Oh, nice.
Of a
Awesome.
rarely adapted piece of his called I Know What You Need. Yeah, if you want to, talk to Julie about that, you can follow I Know What You Need on the internet as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for the shout out.
Of
That's,
course.
very lovely. Yes, I am. I have just done that. I also, so you can find us at Horror Movie Survival Guide. Also, Terry is at the Terry Gamble. I am at Julia C. Marquesi. I am also on 2 other podcasts. I have a one about the filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky
Oh,
called
cool.
Jodorowsky. And then I'm also on the Losers Club podcast, which
Oh.
is exclusively about Stephen King.
Nice.
Julia has also read every Stephen King book in the last 5 years. So just so
Really?
you know,
Everyone.
the Dark Tower series, all of it is stacked up in her apartment. She has all of it and has read it all. So if you have Stephen King questions, she is more than happy to interact with you on the internet if you have some questions for her. And it has theories, stuff, deep
Yeah,
dives.
Of course.
Losers Club episodes, they do not set a time for their episodes. So some of their episodes are 4 or 5 hours long, depending on the piece.
my
You guys
God.
know it is one of the definitive podcasts that I know King actually has listens to as well. So
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen them shout them out before.
oh, for sure. So, and Julia is an official loser, and she was at Midsummer Scream talking with some of these amazing folks and with the Losers Club as well. So very proud.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm an actor, so you can look me up on things, but I can't really talk about any of them right now because technically we're striking. So,
Right.
yay! Find
Can
me
you
on the
mention
internet.
anything- Can you mention anything you have done?
If roll right now, nothing huge. If you want to look it up, you can find it on my Instagram. You can find cute pictures of me doing shows that happened this year on TV. And you can I also do a bunch of independent movies and stuff like that too. So I've had some films coming out to some Screamy festivals coming up very shortly. Mhm.
You also do RPGs.
I do. I'm a role play gamer. as well. So I am on the Twitch on Thursdays with a Monster of the Week campaign currently at Happy Jacks RPG. And I have, played on the internet for many moons. So if you find me at the Terry Gamble, it's Terry with one R, most of the platforms, that's me.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, next week we'll be back to covering Tales from the Crypt. We'll be doing the episode Cold War. We appreciate everyone for listening. Really, really appreciate if you give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Yay!
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.